Bene, buongiorno a tutti. Terza edizione di Castellineurope, una conferenza dedicata al mondo dei professionisti nell'ambito dei festival cinematografici, una iniziativa che è nata 3 anni fa a seguito dei contatti che si erano avuti via Zoom e via Skype per la pandemia. Non ci si poteva trovare e quindi i professionisti del settore si sono messi in contatto con la nostra direttrice operativa Cristiana Giaccardi, che oggi è assente per malattia, per poter condividere le esperienze comuni di una realtà festivaliera e per cercare di trovare dei punti comuni per delle sinergie o comunque per delle linee guida da portare avanti nella conduzione di un festival. Quest'anno abbiamo il piacere di ospitare dei responsabili di festival che provengono dalla Svizzera, dal Portogallo e dalla Germania. Ed in particolare saluto con molto piacere, ecco, vi dico benvenuti a Bellinzona, anche se alcuni di loro sono già arrivati negli scorsi giorni, a Teresa Lima, che è coordinatrice Play Festival di Lisbona. Buongiorno Teresa. A Olaf Weoski, che è Festival Manager Lucas Festival di Francoforte. Willkommen. E di Gio Bado, che è coordinatrice del Jugendfilmtage. Buongiorno anche a lei. La coordinatrice di questa conferenza, quindi moderatrice, è Carina Kaisen, che è Green Consultant presso diverse produzioni cinematografiche. La ringrazio per essersi messa a disposizione. Voglio salutare anche la presenza di Daniel Maselli, che è delegato per l'azione per il promovimento e la cooperazione internazionale e lo sviluppo del Dipartimento degli Affari Esteri, che già era nostro ospite l'anno scorso e questa mattina era presente per un dibattito, workshop con gli studenti della Scuola di Commercio cantonale. Quindi grazie per la sua presenza, è sempre un valore aggiunto. Bene, io penso che posso terminare qui e cedo volentieri la parola alla moderatrice. Prima c'è comunicazione tecnica. Prego, prego Betta.
The idea is that this talk will be in English. So I will do a quick recap of what Flavia just said. So we are very happy today to have this third edition of Castellineurope, which is a talk, which is a meeting, which puts together professionals from the film industry, from film festivals, and which started actually during the pandemic because it was impossible to meet in person. We had the chance to meet people from other festivals, from other countries, online via Zoom, and now we are keeping these contacts that we just started at the time. So we are very happy to have our guests today here, and to share all together the different kind of experiences that we have in different film festivals as a community. So today we have guests from Switzerland, from Portugal, and from Germany, and so it's a great pleasure to have them here. From a technical point of view, if any of you needs a translation into Italian, just raise your hand. I'm here for you to translate. If you understand English, but later would like to have a question, you have questions for them and would like to have a question in Italian, I can translate for you into English. So I'm here for you. I will be there. Just raise your hands. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, okay. So a warm welcome to you all here in the Mercato Coperto in Giubiasco at the open discussion of the important topic about ecological responsibility of cultural events organized by the Castellinaria Festival del Cinema Giovane, a conference which is part of the program of Castellineurope. The Castellineurope conference is back a privileged moment for a dialogue with professionals from different European festivals and countries dedicated to the cinema of kids and young people. As you heard before, my name is Karina Kaiser, and I'm working since a few years as a production assistant, mainly in Ticino and around Switzerland. And recently, I'm working as a green consultant, sustainability manager for productions such as fiction and documentaries. So in the last years, the topic of sustainability gets more visibility and has also become a priority for cultural events. And during this conference, also as part of the Young is Green program here at the Castellinaria Film Festival, our guests coming from different European festivals are here today for open dialogue with you all about sustainability goals on their activities and also to report about the organization part of the events. So we will make a brief introduction of our guests, then they will give us a presentation of their activity with the support of a few slides. Afterwards, we will have time for open discussion with questions from the audience, from you all. Of course, feel free to ask our guests questions, also in Italian. We will have a translation if we need it. Thank you so much. So I'm very glad to welcome and introduce our guests again, speakers today, which are Joe Bado, co-director of the Swiss Youth Film Festival in Zurich, Teresa Lima, co-director of the Play Lisbon International Children and Youth Festival in Portugal, and Olaf Wechowski, festival manager of Lucas International Festival for Young Film Lovers in Frankfurt. So, Joe, I will go with you first. After studying English literature and linguistics, Joe continued studying film studies at the University of Zurich, while at the same time collected experiences at the Fantoche International Festival for Animation Film, at the Locarno Film Festival, and lastly at the Swiss Youth Film Festival, of which she is co-director since fall 2022. Joe is not only a cinemagoer, but also an avid reader and writer with a second poetry collection set for publication in December 2023. And I will give you the word for your presentation.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me and the Schweizer Jugendfilmtage. I will proceed by give you a short presentation about what are the Swiss Youth Film Festival, and then I'll let you know about what we try to do in terms of sustainability in the realization of the festival and how we bring the topic of sustainability in our festival. So, the Schweizer Jugendfilmtage was founded almost 50 years ago, which means that we are among the oldest film festivals in Switzerland. It was created in response to the need of showcasing film made by film students. And today we are the most important national film festival made for young people. We only present films that are from young people, for young people. We have a strong national reach, an international network, and we work throughout the whole year. We are always available to answer questions, to participate to, for instance, this panel. We present our festival. We try to present it all over Switzerland. We also try to continue presenting the films that we showed at the festival in other institutions, in other events. So we really try to provide a safe environment for kids and young people so that they can show their work, they can experiment, they can get creative, and they can also get feedback from a jury of professionals. I'm forgetting the slides here. So this is an overview of the program that we had last year. Our program grew like throughout the years, but mostly about like the quality got better, not necessarily in terms of how much we offer. Like we don't want to bombard the people with contents. We try to improve the content that we already have. So at the core of the festival is the competition. We receive every year around 300 short film festivals from film schools, from young people, from kids that are making their first films. Sometimes they make it with their phone and they send it to us. And then these films get selected. We show around 40 films or maximum 50 every year, and they're shown in different categories. Like we have 5 categories that are divided by age. So for instance, in the category A, we could work on our names, obviously, but in this category, we show films made by kids from the age of 8 to 12. And then in the category A, that's the last category, we show films that are made by film students. So between the age of 25 and 30. So it's a wide range. We have large number of prizes, like 23 prizes. So everyone has a high chance to win something. And then we also have different jury members. We have then, aside from the main competition, 2 more programs. Some are more social programs. These are mostly network opportunities and like workshops and ateliers, so opportunities to get to know other people, professionals, but also just other filmmakers, other kids that are also passionate about films. And then there is also the opportunity to learn more of this medium. And then we also have every year a country focus. This year I can anticipate that it's going to be Ireland. And there we show 2 film programs also portraying new voices and emerging film makers of the country. And then we also have like a talent camp screening. I will maybe explain you more talent camp later. And then an archive screening that is a new program actually. We show films from our archive in a setting that is not a cinema. Yes. And then during the year we continue our work. We continue to promote young filmmakers. We try to organize screenings. We try to organize workshops and as many opportunities as possible so that the network and the community stays strong throughout the whole year. And here I listed some of our offers. Yeah, let's call them like that. Then our festival is organized and is directed by a small group of people. We are 2 co-directors. There you can see me when I had long hair and my my colleague. The 2 of us are in charge of pretty much everything. But we are supported by a rather large team. Here you can see listed our team and also the board. And then we also have an intern that works with us like 5 months a year to help us during the festival time. Our team consists mostly of students. Some are film students, some are social workers, most of them are still information. They're all within 18 to 30 years old. And they help us in various things, from the film selection to during the festival, maybe they're responsible of a location or a program. And we try to give young people the opportunity to learn how to organize events and like try to make it accessible to be part of the film industry and be part of an organization such as a festival. Here you can see a bit of our network. We're also indeed partners with Castellinaria. We have a whole project together, and yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into this. Here, I actually meant to show you a video, but apparently I cannot do it, so I would invite you to maybe go on YouTube and you can get a bit more of a visual impression of our festival. One interesting thing is that the trailer of our festival is always made by the winner of category C. The category C is, there we show films made by teenagers that are between 16 and 19 years old, and who wins then have the opportunity to produce the next trailer, and they have like complete freedom. And then this trailer will circulate throughout all the cinemas in Switzerland. So it's a great opportunity. These are the winners. Yeah. Here are some numbers for whoever likes numbers. I personally don't, but I thought it was fun. Yeah. And now to the main topic of today. So we started as an amateur film festival, and only recently, and maybe unexpectedly, like since 2020, we really have grown exponentially, like professionally. I'm not sure it was exactly a choice, but it happened. The point, however, is that we still operate within a small budget and with very limited human resources and materials. I mean, as you have seen, we are really 2 people leading a festival. This means for us that we try to be sustainable, but unfortunately, the sustainable choice is not always the easy one for us in terms of budget. Like often, the sustainable thing is more expensive, but we try our best. So here you can see, in terms of transportation and mobility, we really highly encourage the public to use public transportation. We try to offer, when possible, like a free pass for the guests that aren't in Zurich, so they can use the trams and the buses. In terms of infrastructure, there, unfortunately, we don't have much control, right? We try to be as mindful as possible, at least with our decoration. So that is usually handmade by a team member, and she uses as much as she can the material from our past festivals to make up the decoration. It's pretty cool. And then in terms of food and beverage, we only serve vegan or vegetarian food, and we also work with local services. And in general, we really try to work with small local businesses also when it comes to merchandise and gifts. And recently, and especially is the aim of this year, is we really try to optimize our digital services, like communication, like our website is now a work in progress. We try to have online ticketing systems, so we print less tickets, but also programs. Yeah, and then we also really try to involve our audience and keep them engaged with us for as long as possible. We try to nourish these connections so that like it's more like a community than like an audience that comes once. Exactly. And then in terms of integrating the topic of sustainability in our festival, we usually try to have at least one program. And here I give you some examples. For instance, in 2021, we had a discussion on green film shooting with experts from the film industry. And also these programs were all for free, so people can just attend. Then in 22, we had a garden screening. It was like an archive screening. Like we showed some films that portrayed urban life and nature, and yeah. And then last year we showed Animal. This is a documentary that aims to raise awareness on the climate change, and with that we combined a conversation with Philin Dudler, who she's from the Film from the Earth, Switzerland, and Annika Lutze, who is a filmmaker and activist from the Klimastreik, Switzerland. And yeah, we had like a open discussion about the topic of sustainability. I think that's actually it from my side. Yes, if you have any questions for me, se avete qualsiasi tipo di domanda riguardo al festival, I'm here.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. A lot of information, so maybe the people can just think about a good question afterwards, and we collect the questions for the next time. So I will move on with Teresa. Teresa Lima.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. It's been my first time in Switzerland and I'm very happy to be here. I would like to talk a little bit about my festival. It has started in 2014. This year was our 10th edition, and we started it because there was not one single festival only entitled or destinated to children and youth in Portugal. So by that time we thought it's time to create something just for children. So our festival consists on long features and short films, either real life or animation, but specialized on kids. We program having these years, or we try to give to the kids the films we think that are good to them, and we divide our programming in these years. Like we have learning to see from 1 to 2 years. We have really small kids in a special room with some light, where grandparents and parents come with them to the room. It's their first experience. It's a 15-minute session. It's really small. And 10 years ago, it was our main, people were mad about it because there was nothing like it. Now people are not so sure about if so young kids should be exposed to cinema, so we don't have all that much people now. But we still have these, we have this love for this session, because even for parents, when you have a small kid, you have nothing to do. So it's either than treating or preparing or being with your son or with your daughter. So it's nice that they can come out and take their kid out to some cultural experience. From 3 to 5 years, we call it learning to play. So we have these short film sessions of the most 45 minutes, because we think we have to be very careful with how long should kids stay in front of a film or of some digital things. So from 6 to 9, we call it learning to think, these sessions, and now we can have long features and kids can stay more time seeing films. Till last year, it ended at 13 years old. We didn't screen films for older people, but now we have. Last year, we started having sessions more than 13 years old, because a lot of good movies would stay in our drawers and wouldn't go out and be shown. We also, each year, we have this cine poetry thing going on. We make an homage to some poetry, Portuguese poetry. We think it's important that, although it's a festival dedicated to cinema, that other cultural things are also happening. By the year, or outside the 9 days of the festival, we also have these marsupial sessions, so that mothers can come out of the houses and go and see a film for adults. But we like to think, although it doesn't happen right in the festival, that it's our programming, and it's a way of keeping women out of house and of only being with kids. Here are some images of our room where people can stand up, where there's light, where there can be noise and nobody will say shut up or whatever, where people can feel comfortable having their kids also there. And we also work with schools. We try to go to schools, especially underprivileged schools, and we try to help kids doing their films programming and try to make them conscious that they can change the world they live in and that they can do something with their future. When we started this project, at the beginning, the only professions they said they wanted to be was either a cop or, I don't know, a housewife or stuff like that. And we think we're happy with what we have accomplished, because now some of the kids say they want to be directors and they want to do movies. So maybe we're changing, even if it's just some kids, we're changing their mentality. Here are some more images of our work with kids. Because although it just happened in late February every year in the main street in Lisbon, in one of the oldest cinemas there, we try to go to other places where there are no cinemas, where there is no programming for kids, and we also work in schools. We also took, one of the schools we worked in, kids and parents and people who worked in the school, they never went anywhere outside the neighbor. They live in the project, so in tough neighbors, and we were able to make them come to the center of Lisbon, all happy to show the movies they did. So I think it's been a good work. So we call it Cinema to Dream, from young ages, from 1 year old to 99. So about sustainability, we are also a very small festival, although we have almost 6,000 kids coming to the cinema, which is a pretty good, 6,000 to 9,000, it depends. Now with the pandemic, we had a shortage on people coming, but we hope to get back together quickly. We are only 2 directors, and we do most of the work 3 or 4 people each year, so we struggle with money, of course. And the problem to be sustainable, to have a festival that is sustainability or that takes that in account, you need money for that. And at least in Portugal, we don't have much support for that. So what we try to do is we take kids from schools to the cinema using a scholar, I don't know how to say, like public transportations with the teachers. We have this protocol with Lisbon, with the city, and it's a way of, instead of they having to spend money and polluting even more, they can go by subway or whatever. We tried, last year we tried to impress much less programs, spend a lot of less paper. We also stopped doing this merchandising and all these gifts to the people that came to the festival. We thought it was not very environmentally healthy. And we also had for some years a contract with Galp, which is a company, energetic company, a very big one in Portugal. And so what we did was we started to program or to have films environmentally concerned. They would pay us for that. Of course, they wanted to clear their image and to stay good or look good at the kids' eyes. But what we did was we took the money and we tried to have the best program possible to make kids understand what's happening in the world. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Teresa. It was really nice. It looks like a splendid adventure you're doing over there in Lisbon. So I'm gonna pass the word to Olaf. We'll introduce Olaf with a few words. Olaf was, after studying film studies at ethnology and American studies, he worked as a producer, first mainly for documentaries, then for many years for commercials. In 2019, his passion for film finally brought him back to the cinema, and he took over the festival management of Lucas. So Olaf, would you tell a little bit about your festival and your topics?
I will. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I started in 2019, pretty fresh with, didn't know anything about festivals. Now, the past October, I did my 5th edition, which was actually the 46th edition of Lucas. It's Germany's oldest film festival for young audiences. It takes place in Frankfurt, Wiesbaden, and Offenbach, which is basically the Rhine-Main region, and in 4 venues and in a total of 6 screens. We do it physically, as you can see, but we also do something like Lucas streaming and to watch short films from the competitions online. We do that until Christmas, from October until Christmas, but only for school groups and such as. At the core of Lucas, we have our program, which is split up into 3 sections of international filmmaking and current filmmaking for kids, teens, and youngsters. And the kids and teens competitions are judged by mixed juries. This is very special for juries. We have 3 kids and 3 professionals working together on actual eye level. And the youngsters are only 6 young adults. So we have further sections, more program. This is partially curated by young people, and but it starts from the very young, which are not 1 to 2 years old, but 3 to 6. We call it minis. This is the next one. Yeah. Then we have what did I write? Yeah, film history classics, a classic class we do every year, and then we have the Young European Cinephiles, which is actually a group we select from all over Europe. Some people of you could be in there next year. So 6 young people curate a program of 3 films around one topic, and this year it was identity. It's always very interesting, and those films are not for young people, but by young people. So hard stuff sometimes. We do also do cooperations with other institutions and festivals. This year, probably it's too long for this, but I was too fascinated by it. We did a cooperation with a museum called Dialog Museum, which is both a social enterprise and a museum to learn about the experience of blind or visually impaired people. Together we asked the questions, what does cinema sound like? And so this cooperation taught in various ways how blind and visually impaired people perceive films and how they can also experience the visual dimension of a film with the help of an audio description. We then organized an audio description workshop with the school class, and the results were presented to the public during the festival week. This was amazing, actually, and there was some staff members of the Dialog Museum who was visually impaired themselves, and they were involved in the process, but also presenting the movie, which was really cool. And then we did another thing called, it was more like a game on the festival Sunday around that topic, and now the Dialog Museum will in return have an exhibition which is called Dialogue in the Dark, and they will do a cinema room in there, and the film that's shown in that cinema experience is, without any image of course, is a film from last year from Lucas, so it's pretty cool. The knot, or to the other, how do you say it, the other leg we stand on, apart from the program, is getting involved. So participation is really at the heart of Lucas. So we invite children and youngsters shaping the festival, as I told you, like in curating programs, for example, but we do a lot of workshops. And so I've listed all the different kinds of workshops, and thanks to some funding and the bad conscience about neglecting young people during the pandemic, we had some more money this year to do year-round activities. And on the photo you can see one workshop the week before last week. We did something called screenplay detectives, and This is a very small group because they are hearing impaired and they needed to use sign language. It was pretty difficult for a long time because we didn't have enough people translating into sign language, but it worked out and it was a very beautiful experience and very interesting for us as well. We are also a small team. This is probably pretty common in cultural experiences. We are 3 people during the year. We have, for 2 to 3 months, we share employees with the German Film Institute, and because we are a project of the German Film Institute. And then we have, of course, some freelancers. We can pay pretty badly, and but we deeply rely on interns. So we have like 8 to 10 interns for 2 to 3 months, and then we have a lot of volunteers during the festival week. So this is partly jury and team. Some photos. I'm a bit over time, so I'm do it quickly, just to get impressions. And on the last photo, here you can see probably the first sustainable, or one of the small steps we took in talking about sustainability. We don't use flowers anymore, so when we present our guests something, we give them this instead, and it's actually seed paper, so they can take it home and plant it. And you give me your Visitenkarte, your card today, and it was also made of seed paper, so this is same idea. Yeah, let's talk about sustainability. Our starting point was that we didn't want to eliminate all impacts of our activities. We wanted to find practical ways and solutions to become more sustainable. Some things were pretty small steps, and some were more comprehensive changes, but most were also money neutral. So we tried to do the obvious goals: conserving resources, waste avoidance, waste separation, CO2 avoidance, and saving energy. A little bit more in detail, we heard a lot of that today also. It's kind of the obvious steps. We don't do car journeys anymore. It used to be very common to have car shuttles like we have here because of the local situations. We can avoid that in Frankfurt and go with a public transport, and they are also a sponsor of the festival. And in Frankfurt, all event venues are within walking distance to the hotel, so this suits us also very well. We question air travel, but we don't think it's always avoidable. There's some benefits to have people physically present instead of having them on a screen. Luckily, we can share guests with other festivals happening around our time. And last but not least, we do all printing eco-friendly. This is actually more expensive, but it's worthwhile. We do, for example, merchandise. We still do, but we do it in it's fair, and it's cotton, and yeah, things like that. So we also avoid or try to do without some stuff. For example, balloons. We do instead blowing bubbles, but you have to make that outdoors, otherwise it gets very slippery. Catering is also vegetarian, and we only use disposable. We don't use disposable tableware, but it's all not plastic, but glass and actual plates and stuff. So, and we do a little bit of training within the office, and in winter it's very, very cold. Yeah, and our goals for the future are to talk with our hotels and the cinemas, and that they get certified. They are actually on the same page with us, but it's really expensive and to change things, and so yeah. We want the DFF to change to green electricity. This is a very close, we have to work on that. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Olaf. So the thing it pops on my mind if you talking, it's the topic of financing. So don't having a lot of money to make this change in more sustainability. And the thing that you're working actually on small teams, so it's most challenging to, I would say, to get those things together. So I will start to make a question on you, and then I will give you, at the audience, the word. So I would love to start with you, Olaf, if it's okay. You mentioned that you have a few venues during your event. Is this a big challenge for your sustainability goals, like you mentioned, mobility, or to say it better, how are the theaters responding on your sustainability strategy? Do you have like supports from there, or what can you tell us?
Yeah, we have like the one cinema within the institute, so they are really on the same page, but they they rely on the same funding, so they can't do that much, and especially with the pandemic hitting hard. So in the other cinema in Frankfurt is a privately owned cinema with we have 3 screens in there, and they try to get every funding they can have to change things. It's difficult as well. The Wiesbaden one is owned by the city, and they are probably trying to be on the forefront. They wanted to be renovated this year, and for like a couple of months, and this can't happen. And yeah, so it's difficult, and we have to wait for at least a couple of years, I think.
And how is the situation in a political way in Germany? So do you have like some fundings or guidelines you have to follow, or you have like a network on Germany, how you can support each other?
This is on YouTube. So yeah, I think the funders are asking surprisingly intense, like a catalog of things that we do without raising the funding. So you have to fulfill certain things that you didn't know when you applied beforehand. And you have to report what you do, but without more money. So yeah, I agree. Raising the demand of that or the awareness, but I think it's really problematic that there's no money for that. So yeah.
Yeah, and probably no plan actually. So it looks like when you're talking about this, and probably it's risky for greenwashing. The topic of greenwashing could be like to make things quickly, but not really with a schedule, not really with a plan. Is this a risk for greenwashing in the?
I think that we don't. I mean, the money thing is, if you don't have the budget, you have to think about what to spend it on, of course. So how much culture can we afford? And the culture that is made, is it made on the back of the people? Is it made on the back of the environment? So those are questions you have to ask, but you can't multiply money. So yeah, it has to do with the priorities, and yeah, so I don't have an answer.
Yes, thank you so much. So, anyone has a question to Olaf? Over there?
I have a question for Cinema Dream. Is it difficult to find movies, short movies for kids from 1 year old to 2 years old, and how do you select them?
If it's hard, sometimes it is because they can't have subtitles and they have to be really short, so we struggle. But we see more or less 500 films a year, so we manage to choose them. It's mostly about music and about good images, but it's hard. It's hard. It is. It's one of the hardest ages. It's 1, 2 years old, and then more than 10 years old. It's the opposites are very difficult.
Thank you, Teresa. I will ask you a question, like, right away. So you was telling us about the situation in Lisbon, in Portugal. Can you tell a little bit more about Portugal? So did they have like programs or also fundings for improving in the cultural events more sustainability in?
No, there's not a plan, which you talked. There's no plan and there is no money, so it's pretty much like up to our conscience. We have to be conscient and to understand what is needed. That's the truth. At least for small festivals. I don't know about huge festivals for adults. Maybe there's some support, but for small festivals, there's nothing.
Yeah, that's a pity. What is working well and what is not working well at the moment in your sustainability strategy? What do you think?
I think we're doing good in programming, having that in account, that kids want and must see films that make them understand what's happening in the world. Although they have lots of information, but it's different. If you get to have them seeing with a teacher a documentary, or it's different from things on Instagram or whatever. The worst part is perhaps the paper things. It's very hard to have everything online because we would need more money to do that. I think that's what's going on. The worst part is that.
And did you have a network which are supporting your thinking and your efforts?
We don't, but I think that's a very good idea. It's very strange how we have a network outside Portugal. We work and we talk to a lot of festivals, but when it comes to our own home, sometimes people are like, oh, you're here, you can take some of our public or whatever. So I think it's a very good idea and maybe it should be done. So thank you for reminding me that. Maybe we will change something there.
I was thinking because also today here with you all, it's a kind of networking and to get more support and exchange experiences. So thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And Joe, I have a few questions for you. Or the audience have a question?
Hello. I have a question for all of you three. Do you think that you have in your festival the possibility to reduce energy consume, and where, or if you don't know yet, Have you thought about this? Because I think one of the most immediate thing you can do is reduce energy use. So yes.
Did I understand you correctly? To reduce the consuming?
Yeah, consuming energy in which is reduced transportation, but also heatings and I don't know
Yeah.
all the energy a festival needs.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the cinema projection, it's you have to have a new projector, and we just got one for this reason at the DFF, which has nothing to do with us as a festival because we couldn't afford that, but we only use like a venue for a week. So, but our office, as I told you, in the winter we are freezing because we limit it to 20 degrees, and it's it sucks. Yeah, but we have like coats and stuff. So yeah, but this has actually different reasons. It's more with the war of Russian invading the Ukraine. So, but this got us more aware. Sometimes those things are directly how do you say it? Koppeln, connected with money. Yeah, yeah. But we try to reduce our. For example, the lightning stuff is LEDs now and stuff like that. Yeah, we are pretty aware of that. But I think, other than film production, festivals are not that energy consuming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't actually, I mean, I cannot add much, but I can say that it's also in the back of our minds, obviously. Though for us, it's been quite difficult because last year we really had to move into multiplex. So there, it's very much out of our control. If you're like in a big institution, like we are just there for 4 days, so we try to be very mindful about what we do in those 4 days, but then the infrastructure, the projections, the energy they use, the lighting, all of that, it's completely out of our control. And I think it's always very hard to find this, like to accept that you have to compromise like in this way.
Our office doesn't have any heat, so but it's a Portuguese problem. We had a dictatorship for 40 years, and one of the things that were left to us for new generations is that our houses are not built for cold. There's this myth that Portugal is always hot. It's not. So we freeze at our houses and offices a lot. So at least we consume less energy, but we freeze sometimes. I think, as Olaf said, for festivals, we don't spend all that much energy because we're just 2 or 3 or 4 people a year long. The only problem are the screenings and the production of the films, but that we cannot do much, I think.
Yeah, we've done one thing. Our catalog looks like this, which is like a newspaper, and we try to find somebody, and which is not local, which is stupid, but in this case, they do print without water, without using water, and so they won a prize, and that's how I found them, because so they are am Bodensee, in Konstanz, and so we work with them, and it has some disadvantages. For example, if you go over it, the print will be on your hands, but yeah, it works pretty well. You can have a look if you want later on.
Thank you so much. Any question?
I'm not sure I'm going to be disturbing in a sense that I'm a bit of a nasty person within my organization. I'm not entitled to criticize festivals because I don't know them well enough, but I've been following the big conferences, you know, like the COPs and things like that for quite a while, and I was always so much disappointed of the talk about sustainability and the contradiction with what the conference themselves was doing and how it was really tackled, you know. So I would like to ask you whether you, coming from the culture and art sector and having to do with artists who are creative, you know, is there not more imagination to be more kind of systemic in the approach of sustainability and more transformative? Because what we see now is really like not printing a program or maybe providing tap water instead of bottled water. We're not yet there. I sense also when you said, Teresa, that you had dropped attendance from 9,000 to 6,000 due to pandemic. You see the climate conferences in 2009 in Copenhagen, they had 50,000 participants. Now I hope that in Doha, in UAE, at COP28, there will be only 10,000. So there is still this logic of more is better. And I'm wondering whether, could we imagine festivals where the participation is not necessarily increasing in person? Could you bring the festivals into other places through distance and create moments where people can be together but 1,000 kilometers away, like here? We would be part of your Lucas Festival sitting in Bellinzona here and be connected and have a good moment together here without having to travel to Frankfurt or to other places. Would there be a possibility to go into that direction? I'm also talking a bit as a representative of a donor. We know we are considered as a wallet and we always fund projects, so 1.5 billion a year, as you know, yes, a year. But money being told to be the limiting resource alone, and then human resources just takes not into consideration imagination and creation. It's not to give you back the ball, really, it's not this intention, but the whole world needs to be different. Thinking completely different and acting completely differently. And if we just, as I said, scratch on the surface of the printing of the paper, we won't really be able to address the polycrisis we have right now. And I would like to be part of the solution, of course, not only criticizing. And we have transformed, we are reducing. We have only one person from our organization, which is responsible for climate also within Switzerland, going to Doha. One single person. We don't send more people. So I think there is probably ways to do things really different and to think beyond what we have been doing as business as usual until now. Sorry for that lengthy intervention. Thank you.
No, thank you. It's important issue you're raising, yeah, our guest. Someone wants to say something about more creativity who can support the transformation.
I hope that transformation happens, but I think it's still a long way. I don't know if we have time for this long way, and I know that probably that's your concern also, but it's very hard to change mentalities. But that's why we work with children. Let's hope that children can change the adult mentalities.
I think that all those things you heard about our festivals are pretty much thinking out of the box and stretching the limits so far as we can get. And then we have a limit, and that's budget, and this is why we talked about that so much. But I think that I can only talk for myself, but For example, putting down, which we did in 2019, saying we don't want car shuttles, we don't want to sponsor with a lot of money investing into taking cars and being like commercialized for that, and saying no, we want to switch to public transport. This was a very conscious decision, and so yeah, we're creative in that way, and at the moment we try to work within the limits. We had the pandemic for the last 3 years, which, for example, this was kind of a coincidence, but it questioned the travel issues so much. We learned to Zoom, we learned to ask how much does a Zoom cost in CO2, but at the same time it's obviously much cheaper than having somebody traveling from the US, and so we reduced air travel to like almost zero. People come by train. We try to focus more on Europe, but at the same time we try to not be Eurocentric because we are an international film festival. So yeah, we raise all those questions and we look for answers, and we don't have them by ourselves. So we do use ECFA, for example, the European Children Films Association, which is talking about this issue. We use all those different networks to learn, yeah, basically.
Yeah, thank you. You really covered a lot. But I also wanted to ask back. I'm no expert, but the thing is, like, technology also takes its toll on, like, it has an ecological impact as well. So if we try to do everything in, like, involving more technological things, like just a live stream or like a computer, like all of that also takes energy. And I don't know if it takes more or less energy than trying to have people in the same room. And then there is also the issue, well, it's not an issue, it's cinema is meant to bring people together, so I'm not sure if festivals really want to give up on that core, right? Like, I understand that it will be obviously wonderful if we could all connect, but I cannot imagine at least our festival to be something where we force children to be in front of the computer to attend.
I really acknowledge your efforts, and your thinking. That was not the message that you don't do enough, but I think that it is about connecting in one place, as I said before, not children sitting in front of a single computer in their own room. That would be a disaster for me. And it's still about coming together and sharing a moment together. That's really important. I think that maybe, I'm not sure, maybe the solution is not within your festival, but with the people who attend. Because again, if you look at the conferences I mentioned before, all the catering is so much unsustainable. It is so much driven by certain companies with economic interests that this is the real disaster ecological-wise. It's not your festival with your participants, with your filmmakers that are causing the major problem. So how do we work on the audience maybe more than on how you do the festival with your people? And our critics from sponsoring side should not go to you, but to see together how can we direct audience to be more sustainable, not to walk around and drink out of plastic bottles, as we said, take the plane to come to your places, because you are inviting your people to come by train, but the audience will come as they want. So probably the solution could be more there, and it's also bigger numbers.
Yeah, but I think that you're thinking about things like Cannes or the Berlinale, which is very different to the kind of audience we have. We have like school classes coming from, actually if they come from the Taunus, which is like 30 kilometers away, they will come by S-Bahn and by community. But we don't have people like the usual audience. We have some people from the industry coming from throughout Germany and sometimes from Belgium or something. But yeah, our main audience, like the thousands of people, that those are students coming from within the area by public transport.
I have another question. Is there a sort of label for film that are created more ecologically? As it's only a curiosity for me, but is there, for you that you choose films, you have some possibilities to know if the film is made accordingly to certain parameters, or I don't know how it works, but is there something like that, like biofilm or eco films? I don't know.
Ja, wir sind die Festivalleute. I can say a few words about that. Actually, in Switzerland, no, we don't have a label or something. We don't have any methodology yet. We starting with the CO2 calculator, and in Lucerne you can make a green consultant schooling. So it's really starting. I know that in Germany you have green motion. It's a label which it's related to funds from actually from the state, and you have to do some steps and some things to get that label. So you have your visibility on the credits. So I think for the festival directors, probably it's important to see what's going on the credits side. I know in Austria they are doing also this kind of operation for producing like green filming actually, and you get 5% back if you do so from your budget. So you see you have a lot of programs in our neighbor lands, but here in Switzerland at the moment, nothing really, sustainable, I would say. But yeah.
But I think it's a very good point, and we should build up a little bit of pressure on asking world sales if the films have such a label or not, and if they, how was it made? Yeah, if you eat meat, ask where does it come from? And so I think it's a good idea and a good point to do that. And I know about the German label, but we only do 1 or 2 German films, so we would have to look all over. And yeah, but I think it's a good starting point, but much too late.
Yeah, I mean, in our festival, we just show films by kids, right? So they're made with their phone or like with a tablet. So usually the impact is very, very low.
I think you made a good point, but in my festival we're still not, or at least till now we didn't look up to that, because maybe it's not so widespread. Have to wait a little bit more.
I'm changing subject. I hope it's fine, but it's something that came to my mind when Olaf was speaking, and you talked about screenings. You talked about audio description, and you talked about some activities that you made with sign language. So I was wondering, I was thinking about accessibility, We received a phone call yesterday, and there was a lady who was asking if there was audio description in one of the films. So I'm actually Italian, and they told me that in Switzerland it's not so widespread as but in the European Union, I'm working with a couple of companies who work in accessibility, and there are some funds also for creative and cultural events for accessibility. Do any of your festivals have accessibility? Like Olaf was making an example of that. What about your festivals, for example?
We have some sessions for people that don't hear, for deaf people. Till now, that's our main concern. And also for people who can't walk, for disability, physical disability, we have platform that they can enter the cinema. That's our main. Of course, we only have some sessions because it's very expensive. There comes the money again, but we try to do it.
Yeah, we only have, we actually struggled last year with this move to this multiplex because they weren't that accessible, and we had a whole class of people using wheelchair, and we asked them to organize and make it possible for them, but it wasn't obvious. And also for next year, we're already in discussion, how can we make sure that these kids that made their film can actually come and watch it. Yeah, but it's not, exactly, it's not that obvious yet. It's very unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah, same with us. I mean, we do pilots, and being a festival and being using a film, for example, or screening it for 1 week, and we can't put the money into the film to make it do an audio description for a feature film. It's really not possible. But yeah, we try to bring awareness, of course, and with the cinemas, we are also accessible for wheelchairs. And for next year, my big dream would be, depends on the funding, but to do more with people who have learning weaknesses and yeah, I don't know the English word for it, but so to look around how to include people to come.
Can I just say one thing? For sustainability, there's no plan, there's no support from the government, but in Portugal for these sessions that are more inclusive, we have some supports, yeah. So at least in that, it's better.
So maybe we have a chance that also for sustainability gonna be a program in the future, maybe, fortunately. I want to ask a brief question to Joe, because your festival is holding in Zurich, so Zurich is making some efforts to become more green. So it's the city or the canton or the region supporting you in a partnership or providing you with some contacts and stuff.
Yeah, we actually get a lot of funds from the city of Zurich, but also from the state in general. We'll say roughly a third of our budget is covered by these funds. So they help, but it's a general help. It's not because we try to do something sustainable, right? But yeah, I think in Zurich, generally speaking, there is much or quite some awareness. I mean, it's very well built in terms of public transportation. We have 3 locations, right? They're quite close. We try to keep our locations as close as possible so people can move walking potentially, but it's also well connected with public transportation in case. So yeah, I think also generally speaking, we have way more like vegetarian and vegan options. Like there are way more chains or like restaurants that offer that option, so it makes it easier also for us to offer that at our festival. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Yes, any questions from our audience also on this topic? No, I don't see nothing. Okay. And yeah, I would go to get an ending maybe for today. And I want to ask you all, we heard a few things, what could change and support you. And probably the thing with the sensibilization, the awareness to the audience, it's a great challenge. It's a great topic, not also for the festival, but also for the people working in film business and producing and creating the movies and the documentaries to get more precise in that and make some more noise, as you said, and maybe make more actions by our own. So I would love to hear from you, like final words. What could really help you to make that change? And I don't think you have limits, but did you have limits to make this this change, or you see limits from outside maybe more?
I think there are no limits. We will be growing as the problem. Maybe we will have to step up. But I think the idea of the network, maybe an environmental network throughout Europe would be good, or at least in our own countries. That would help us and would make us compromise more if people were together in that.
For me, I think what you said about some paradigm changes that needs to be done, for example, like the growth thing, more people and being bigger and stuff. Although it's kind of bad to say it that way, but the pandemic helped with that, and not having enough money in Germany is also kind of helping in that regard. Because when I came there in 2019 and I moved from like being a commercial producer, and I came to the cultural work because of that. I didn't want to be part of this kind of culture anymore, of more and more and waste. And I was kind of confused that everybody looked at the numbers the same way they do at the television, at ratings, and especially in commercials, in advertising. And yeah, so I think I'm looking forward to that. And we have like very cool initiatives in the city of Frankfurt, which is, there's like especially one woman who is like connecting all the festivals and trying to make inclusive projects and trying to make environment, whatever, sustainable projects, and there's like a lot of room to think, like for example, using the same waste bins from one festival to another, and it doesn't need to be a film festival. We use like the same kind of infrastructure for different festivals. So yeah, I think networking is part of the future in that.
Yeah, I agree with both. I don't think we necessarily have limits. Also in terms of financial limits, like what I'm hoping is that there will be a moment in which sponsors and like whoever gives us the funds, like will see that there is a need and that we can only improve if there is help from their side. maybe the only obstacle that I see is just in terms of time. And by that I mean that, for instance, like in our festival, we are 2 people at 50% doing everything. So it's hard then to also make time for like rethinking the festival and the organization and, okay, what can we do? How could we act differently? But we're into it. Like we're currently trying to make sure that we carve out that time so that we can transform. Yeah, I hope it's gonna be possible. Like I'm sure it will be possible in some way. And last words is that if you have a film, you can submit it to our festival. We're still accepting films until the 1st of January.
Thank you so much. So there's any question? Last question, please, yes?
I think 3 points. Number 1, Olaf, you've convinced me. I will become an ambassador for small youth festivals. I think we should change policy within ourselves. We are supporting the Locarno Film Festival. Why? We should question that. Number 2, I think that you are really doing a great job with regard to sensitizing young people, Teresa. I'm just sharing a big concern with the young people here. I think we are moving into a completely wrong direction with humanity regarding also artificial intelligence and the way people can think. And you're working with young people who are deconstructing, learning how to deconstruct. This means critical thinking, means analytical thinking, and with TikTok and the 1, 2, 3 year, 4, 5 year old young, we are just hard braining them into a direction where they will only be able to focus for 30 seconds or 60 seconds in the future. So this is really a big work, and I commend you for that. So I forgot my 3rd point, which is good, it's shorter. But I will be your ambassador for supporting young and small festivals localized. Thank you.
So finally, I would thank you all for being here today at this discussion. I would say, just going on with thinking out of the box, networking a lot, and a lot of self-improvement and engagement with less money or no money at all. Get more awareness to the audience. And makes more noise and action. That's, I think, the things we need to find like a good balance between, a real festival which is taking place with real people, and also the whole digital world which can help us, but we have to know how we gonna manage this. So thank you very much. And thank you for being here and participate. It was a pleasure for me being a part of this, and enjoy please the last days of the festival here in Bellinzona. Stay curious and please take care of your environment.
And sorry, and get well soon, Christiana.
Thank you, Olaf.